guys, and welcome to the Middlesbrough vs Sunderland match review. So Sunderland did lose by a goal to nil at the Riverside yesterday evening, and it was a frustrating one for many different reasons. Not only did we lose, but of course we picked up a couple of vital injuries as well. Before the game, we did originally intend on going unchanged from the team that beat Rotherham by 3-0, but of course, it was just our luck in it. It's just our luck after, such a great start to the season, particularly for the lad in question. Ross Stewart, 10-15 minutes before kick-off, he picks up an injury in the warm-up. So we don't know how bad that's going to be. I think it's a thigh injury. We're going to find out maybe even later today. He needs to get a scan on it. Depending on how bad it is, it could be a good few weeks. And he is pivotal and vital to our system. And I think it just highlights how much we needed a bit more backup. Well, we needed backup in general because we only have two strikers in Ellis Sims and Ross Stewart. You might say Thompson, who's he's playing with he's with the youth at the moment. I've seen a few people shout for him, but when you bring in the amount of attacking talent that we have done, granted it's largely wingers, number 10s and what have you. But when you have those kind of players coming in, you don't generally ignore them and go for a youth player that's completely untested. You know what I mean? But it does highlight that we needed it because now all we have is Ellis Sims, and of course towards the latter stage of the game, Sirkin pulled up as well. He's been absolutely incredible this season. And he's pulled up as well, so there's a chance that he's going to be out for a good while. So that is the negatives, of course, and the result in itself. But getting into the game, so what we had to do is, of course, Ross Stewart, he falls out of the lineup. Patrick Roberts goes in instead. And what happens then is we have the three at the back, and then you have Clark on one side, Gooch on the other. You have Evans and Dan Neil in the middle. And then rather than just sort of Pritchard and then Stewart and Sims, you've got Pritchard and Roberts in behind Sims. And, at first you think, it's not too bad. You've got two creative minds there in behind Sims. But you get into the game, with the rivalry, if you want to call it that, the rivalry, the atmosphere that the Middlesbrough fans brought to the game. You have to give it to them. They made it a good atmosphere. And their players come absolutely flying out the gates, really going for it, drilling balls into the box, fizzing balls across the area. And we had to scramble the ball away several times. And we really didn't see him at it for the opening few moments. But then we did catch them on the break. We've worked the ball to Sims well on the edge of the box. He's played it to Pritchard. 7 minutes in. The best chance of the game entirely for us anyway. We didn't create a better chance all game than this one. Pritchard, come on, he needs to bury it. Surely just put it past the keeper. He balloons it over the bar. And, it's one of them where when training it 9 times out of 10 that's going in the top bins. But it hasn't. And that's just sort of almost typical of Pritchard at the moment because, and I have mentioned, I think he has been very inconsistent. But then we continue with the game. We just really struggled to make it stick up top. You've got Sims who seemed a little bit lethargic. He held at the ball well, and this is the argument I've had with people online, on social media. He held at the ball well when it comes to him. He held at the ball very, very well. But what he didn't do was lead from the front. Particularly as when you're from by yourself, he didn't lead from the front in the sense of he wasn't pressing the keeper when they were playing it back. Or he wasn't pressing their back line at all. He was kind of just sort of wandering a bit, and when we would hoof the ball forward, if it just happened to go in his direction, he was excellent at holding the ball up, if that makes sense. But there was no real sort of runs in behind, particularly in the first half. There was no real push from him, no press, as I say. So it made it very, very difficult for us. And then eventually they managed to break the deadlock. The touch from the lad was absolutely fantastic, but he takes it in between Bart and O'Nien, probably far too easily, and then pokes it past Patterson. And we just weren't with it. We weren't with it, and I think with Stewart not there as well, it shows how unbelievably reliant we are on the lad, because originally we would have had Sims and Stewart, and they have the back three. So Sims and Stewart would have occupied the outer, the sort of outer of the back three, the right and the left, centre back, out of the back three. They've occupied them. We would have put them down the lanes or the lines to get in behind, whilst the other one would cut across. We didn't have that. We just had Sims, who was just, like I say, was a little bit lethargic and pedestrian walking across that back three, and it made it relatively easy for them to deal with generally because he didn't make those runs in behind at all. But we couldn't get the service to him either because you have Gooch on one side, who, to be fair, I think Gooch didn't have necessarily a bad game, defended when he needed to. A couple of bad challenges, yeah, but he isn't really the greatest of defenders. But going forward, he's trying to put balls in the box. Clark, he's come under a lot of scrutiny after last night's performance because the thing is with Clark that I did like about him, and I always say this, as long as you don't give up, I won't give you too much grief because the lad did not stop. He was up against their right back, and their wing backs in general were absolutely outstanding, must say. They look special. Their wing backs, I have to say, look absolutely incredible. Right and left wing back. bombing up and down that right-hand side all day long, particularly Jones up against Clark. Clark, he was trying to take him on all day long. It was never going to have him for pace. But Clark did not stop trying. He tried to get to the byline and he'd be seen out, or he'd be caught up too easily, or he'd nick the ball off him. But Clark kept on going, he kept on trying. So he was forced to keep on cutting inside from left to right, Clark, because he couldn't take him for pace down the byline. So he kept cutting him from left to right. And even so, we just need some kind of delivery in. And there was easily about 10 crosses from Clark, and each and every one would either just be drilled at the first man or go way over the top. It missed completely everyone that he got for a goalkeeper, or even a throw on the other side. And that happened time and time again. So, it went through the lack of trying, or Middlesbrough absolutely dominated us in that first half, because I don't think they did. They looked the more dangerous, absolutely, and we did look a bit shaky at the back. But we had plenty of possession, and this is what brings me on to the second half. We still went unchanged. We didn't make any changes at this point. But we started to dominate possession. They were quite happy to sit back a little bit, but we just didn't have that threat because Stewart wasn't there, and the deliveries in the box, like I say, were poor. And a lot of people after this result, I don't know whether it is just simply because the emotions of it being a bit of a rivalry, saying that we're absolutely shit, we were this and we were that and the other. I think to myself, we're going to play bad sometimes this season. We're going to play shit. We're going to play absolutely shit sometimes this season. Every team does. But if that performance is what we deem to be absolutely shit, and we're going to have those kind of games several times throughout the season, I think we'll be absolutely fine. Because I don't think we were that bad in terms of, keeping possession, holding on to the ball a little bit, particularly in the second half. I think our ball retention was poor in the first. But in the second, our possession was good. We were getting down their wings, and we were getting into penetrative areas. But we were just so toothless. Like I say, you'd have Gooch on one side or Clark on the other. The crosses into the box and deliveries were absolutely abysmal, and that's what it was. A couple of decent deliveries, and it could have been a different game. Do you know what I mean? And Pritchard for me, mainly in the first half, I think he was so wasteful in terms of his decision making. A handful of times his passing would go directly to the opposition, or there'd be Clark would be on and be clean through on the left hand side instead of just picking him out. Piece of piss. He would try and go for the Hollywood pass, and he'd drill it straight at a Middlesbrough player when he's trying to slip it, through the eye of a needle. Just give it simple. And he was doing it time and time again, as well as the missed opportunity in the 7th minute or however early on it was. It was very, very frustrating. But then we started to get on top. We started to mount pressure on top of Middlesbrough. And then this is the bit that frustrated me. My first slight criticism of Mowbray there, I guess, maybe. Because we were starting to get into a swing of things, starting to look a little bit more dangerous. And as soon as we did get into that swing of things, Mowbray starts making changes. Pritchard's off, and making other changes elsewhere, bringing other players on. Roberts come up, but to be fair, Roberts was completely anonymous and was probably the worst player on the pitch, I must say, because I completely forgot he was on the pitch until the last minute of the first half, where he was tripped on the edge of the box. There were shouts for a penalty, but he was tripped on the edge of the box, and the referee didn't give anything, and he was shite all night, I must say. But other than that, Roberts did absolutely nothing, contributed nothing, and I completely forgot he was there. But yeah, so that was a bit frustrating for Mowbray. We started to get into the swing of things, looked like we're going to go for it, and then he makes changes. It can just harm the flow of the game, and it did. But then for the final 20 minutes, it was just all us, and we're pumping balls into the box, but it's just poor delivery after poor delivery after poor delivery, and hopeful effort after hopeful effort. And again, it went through a lack of trying, but I think it just threw us off the whole game plan of what we're going to do and what we're going to see with Stewart and Sims. You can't just blame it on that because, we have other talented players. It's not just Stewart, but yes, it does highlight that is a system we have drilled into these players, and if anything gets thrown off, the whole team, the whole sort of wavelength of everyone is thrown off. So it was very, very frustrating in that sense. But again, Middlesbrough, who was expected to be there or thereabouts, they looked decent, want more come on as well, and they had a good couple of chances, tested Pato a couple of times. But yeah, that second half, particularly the latter stages, we started to dominate, but created nothing, which is the be-all and end-all. Because if you have a look at it, I think we had like 65% possession overall in the game, and they had like 15 shots to our 8, and we had like 2 on target. We were toothless. We didn't test them enough, and now we have a few days on the training pitch. Well, nearly the full. We've got 4 or 5 days on the training ground to try and work out a solution and a system to play without Ross Stewart, because let's just say, for argument's sake, he's going to be out for a good few weeks. Same with Sirkin. We need to think of a system that will help more. Are we going to stick with the same 3 at the back? Sirkin's going to be injured as well. So is Bailey Wright going to come in and have Bailey Wright, Bart and O'Nien as the back 3, and then still have Clark and Gooch on either side? Neil, I think he needs to be a bit more ambitious with his play. He was playing quite easy at times, and We know what he can do, Dan Neil, and it weren't like he had a terrible game. He just needs to influence the game a bit more. Evans, he calmed the game down when it needed to be. And so them two, I still like them two as a central midfield partnership, but we need to drive through the middle as well, and that's what Neil used to be so good at, and he needs to have that confidence to do that a bit more. But now we're going to go with Sims up top by himself, and then, Diallo come on later on in the game, and he looked very, very sharp, he looked quick, tricky, and he had a chance where he was slid through. He was up against Clark, he was taken away from Clark and a little bit away from goal, but he still should have pulled the trigger and gone for it. He could have gone anywhere, but instead he tried to be clever and he backheeled it to try and find Sims, and it's just gone behind him. But if he just had, that little bit of, that sort of striker's instinct to just pull the trigger, that could have been 1-1 very, very easily, but he tried to be clever. And you can see what we tried to do. It just didn't come off. It doesn't come off sometimes, and that's fine. But yeah, so what are we going to do then? Are we going to try and maybe stick Diallo and Sims up top? Or is he going to try and go for the 2 number 10s again, with maybe Pritchard and Roberts in behind Sims? For me, Roberts, after that performance, based on that performance, he doesn't deserve to start again this weekend, unfortunately. I think that's just it. You base it on performances. That's not me saying Roberts is a bad player, because I think he has his uses. But he wasn't good based on his performance, and I think it's a performance game. You don't perform, someone else comes in, give someone else a go. Diaku come on yesterday, Embleton come on, and it just didn't come off for us. It wasn't anywhere near as bad a performance as some people have said. Yes, it was frustrating because deliveries were awful, but if we come away with lost 3-4, 5-0, it didn't even look like we were going to create. And we couldn't get our one off. Now that is a shit performance, or we couldn't string a pass together. But at the end of the day, there was elements of the game and passages of play where, yes, our ball retention wasn't great, but we're still trying to penetrate, even though that end product was poor. It doesn't mean the whole performance in general was utter shit just because we're getting a bit passionate. Don't get me wrong, if I weren't working yesterday and I got sat in front of a camera straight after the game, then maybe I would have been as aggressive as other people have been. But sitting on it, it wasn't as bad as some people have made out. We just were toothless, and that's it. So hopefully we can think of something and come up with a system that works against Millwall this weekend, because again, that's going to be a difficult game anyway. But so what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Are you in agreement that it isn't as bad as some people may have made out, or are you just completely fuming and think it was utter atrocious? Let me know in the comments down below. But if you've enjoyed, hit the like button for me. It'd be massively, massively appreciated. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already to become a fully fledged member of the Sarny Army. But for now, take care and stay jammy.